Hello everyone, this is your cruise director Kristen, and this is the sun-soaked Tanglewood Mall in Roanoke, Virginia. Isn't this nice? All this natural sunlight, a liminal row of faux marble columns, and a grid of tile in vintage colors. What more can you ask for in a mall like this? The look of the mall today dates back mostly to a 1985 remodel, but it's much older than that. Tanglewood was announced in 1969, and the process began to widen State Route 419 to accommodate the mall's traffic. Construction began in May of 1971. It was developed by the Double T Corporation, a joint venture of two local businessmen, Thomas T.D. Steele and T.A. Carter Jr. They had already found success with their first mall in Roanoke, Crosswoods Mall, and their next project in Tanglewood would be 1.5 times the size. Crosswoods Mall is now defunct, closing around 2008, and now the site of the corporate offices of Advanced Auto Parts. By the time ground was broken on Tanglewood, 65% of the mall's leasable space had been spoken for, and it was projected that the mall would employ 1,100 people. In the same May 1971 article, it was stated that they expected the mall would provide approximately 30% of the county's sales tax revenue. And if you've ever wondered why we kept building malls in the 70s and 80s during an oil crisis and an economic recession, that's a big part of why. Some counties were hanging their financial future on the success of a new mall, and Roanoke was no different. In addition to the main enclosed mall, the property would feature a detached convenience center that included a Kroger grocery store and SuperRx pharmacy, along with a movie theater a bit later. The mall opened in stages, with their official grand opening happening in March 1973 with the J.C. Penney, Leggett, and Miller & Rhodes department stores as anchors and about 30 inline tenants. Reports from opening day include a lot of complaints about traffic. The 419 widening project wasn't quite done yet, so shoppers were spending 15 to 20 minutes just to enter and exit the mall's parking lot. An interesting opening tenant, to me, was a women's clothing store called Lazarus that opened their 5th location in Tanglewood Mall. Photos of the storefront from around 1990 even show that the font they were using was very similar to the Columbus, Ohio-based department store chain of the same name. They were in no way affiliated with each other, and Roanoke's Lazarus had existed since 1924, originally specializing in the flapper look. And if you think that's a long run, the Lazarus department store had existed since 1851. Tanglewood's Leggett location was especially notable because it was the largest store in the chain at the time. Advertisements from the era show that Tanglewood's location offered many upscale items that their smaller locations did not. For example, Yves Saint Laurent pants advertised on sale for $69 in a 1982 ad. By the end of 1973, Tanglewood also had added a G.C. Murphy and Woolco, along with 30 more inlines, bringing the total stores to around 60. This mall has sort of a strange layout because it basically only has one side. Everything faces the main street in front of the mall, and there are not currently any entrances or exits on what would be the back of the mall. Layout changes have sort of been the rule of the day here. When G.C. Murphy closed in 1979, its two-level location was converted to more mall space, with the lower level being considered a sort of boutique mall within a mall, and the upper level converted into a 7-bay food court. Another notable feature of the mall during the 80s and early 90s was an area referred to as the French Quarter. As the name suggests, they attempted to make this section of the mall that featured about 10 tenants resemble old New Orleans. By 1994, the space that had once been the French Quarter was occupied by a Goodies until 2009 and is now a portion of the Carillon Medical Facility that takes up one end of the mall today. One thing that often makes my mall research take longer is when the mall has a movie theater. Most of my primary sources are local newspapers of the day, and movie showtimes were regularly published. I end up having to sift through a lot of stuff that doesn't tell me much about the mall. However, in reading some of the blurbs published in the Roanoke Times, whoever was writing these movie descriptions around 1990 was a savage. Nowadays, in the age of sponsored content and advertorials, reading someone saying things like, "Adults won't like this, don't bother," is sort of refreshing. One of my favorites was their description of the Mickey Rourke erotic thriller Wild Orchid, in which they said, and I quote, "It's entertaining only because of the unintentional humor," and called Mickey Rourke's character dumb. While I'm sure all of that is probably true, I doubt it would be published now in what would be treated like an advertising section. If you're still out there, you professional movie roaster, please know you made me chuckle multiple times while putting this together. The mall's only significant remodel happened in 1985, which added a glass elevator, fountains, the faux marble columns, and what was described in an advertisement as Mediterranean tile, which makes me think it's been changed. Does this tile scream Mediterranean to you? Maybe it's just marketing speak. The tile doesn't look new and the color scheme is delightfully dated, so maybe it is original. Small improvements have taken place over the years, but for the most part, based on pictures, this design is 1985 vintage. The remodel was completed between February and December 1985, just in time for the local juggernaut Valley View Mall to take a big bite of Tanglewood's lunch. I went to Valley View the same day I went here. It was around lunchtime on a Saturday, and it was way busier than I felt comfortable filming. It's huge and still extremely full. When Valley View was announced in 1980, Tanglewood's owners attempted to fight the development in court by disputing the zoning changes required to make Valley View a reality. The suits were dismissed, and obviously Valley View was built and remains successful to this day, and they are a factor in why this mall is so empty today, much in the way both they and Tanglewood cannibalized the original Crossroads Mall. I heard this fountain before I saw it. If it had been off, I probably wouldn't have even noticed it. It's just tucked away behind this escalator bank. So nice. The mall had about 60 inline stores in its earliest configuration. That number has decreased to between 35 and 40. For most of this mall's history, they have combined previously small spaces to larger ones for junior anchor and larger tenants. When Woolco closed in 1983, it was shortly thereafter replaced by Brendel's, another department store, and a TJ Maxx. The remainder of their former space was made into mall corridor space. Over the years, tenants in that zone of the mall have included Steinmart and Steve & Barry's, both of which closed in the late aughts. Today, the former Woolco space is occupied by Michael's Crafts, Staples, Skechers USA, and TJ Maxx. The former G.C. Murphy, which once housed a food court and small stores, was Steinmart between 1995 and 2005 when they moved into another space further down the mall. The last thing to exist in that space was the furniture warehouse that was going out of business when I was there in January 2024. As we all know, Leggett became Belk in 1997, and Belk is still here at the mall, but with mall access only on the bottom level. There's really not a whole lot upstairs that doesn't have to do with the Carillon Clinic. Carillon began their tenancy at the mall in 2021 and have since expanded their way down the corridor, so they're taking up most of the northeast end of the mall that once led to JCPenney. JCPenney closed here in June of 2017. So while the mall is slowly becoming something other than a mall, I don't see this place shutting its doors anytime soon, which is good. I'm always happy to get to showcase a mall that's been thoughtfully repurposed. Thank you for watching. As always, this is your cruise director, Kristen, signing off until next time from Tanglewood Mall in Roanoke, Virginia. Have a great day.